Hey guys, welcome to Voice of Reason with Nathan. In today's episode, we're looking at the topic of personality, how it influences you in your life, and even on things like your faith and the expression of your faith. So to start off with, personality is your default way of thinking, feeling, and acting towards yourself, others, and the world around you. It has a profound impact on the kinds of jobs that you go for, what you're most suited to, even on things like your relationships and who you feel most comfortable with. And there's a lot of different factors and models that are associated with personality, a lot of research that's gone into it. You might have heard of the Cattal's 16 personality factor model. Myers-Briggs is another famous one that is very practical and a great measurement tool as well. I'm going to focus on the Big Five personality theory, where we look at the O.C.E.A.N acronym, and we'll go through that together now and see how it relates to you. And just to appreciate, it's a spectrum. It's not you're this and you're not that, and you're that and you're not this. We'll go through it now to help you understand it, but it's on a spectrum. And so where do you fit on this model so that then you can use this to your advantage to see how it might be playing out in your own life, and especially, as I mentioned, with your faith and the expression of your faith. So the O stands for openness, the C stands for conscientiousness, the E for extroverted, the A for agreeableness, and the N for neuroticism. So hence O.C.E.A.N. It's an easy way to remember it. So openness, that's really talking about someone who is very creative, more of a risk taker. They're basically open to non-traditional ideas and just getting out there and trying new things. And I want you to imagine someone who's like that in a church context, or in your family or your workplace. They tend to want and enjoy breaking the mold. And again, in the church context, they're the kind of people that love the fact that the worship goes on for an hour or 2 hours, and it's breaking the structure and the mold of how things are normally functioning and operating. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. On the other side of that, you got the more conventional kind of personality type. And again, this is a spectrum. So if you're really high on openness, you're obviously lower on conventionalism. If you're really high on conventionalism, you're lower on the openness factor. So it goes on that scale there. So the more conventional person is, someone who loves structure, organized, guidelines. They're, much more about keeping a routine. And so it's important to appreciate that if, again, in the church context, if you're listening to a message and it's all about breaking the mold and getting out there and doing a new thing this way or that, and it's like, all about this, creative way of approaching your faith, you as a conventional person might hear that and be like, whoa, okay, I'm not comfortable with that. And you might condemn yourself and you might feel guilty about that. And that's not the case at all. Just appreciate that where that person's coming from might be from a more openness personality trait, and it's okay, and that's a good thing as well. It can help you to shift and move in some of the areas that you might need to as well. But don't beat yourself up about that. On the other side, you might hear a sermon where someone's more conventional and like, hey, it's really important that, we read our Bibles, we pray. It's essential that we have a routine, a structure. And you as an openness, say you're more on the openness trait, you'd hear that, oh, boring, I can't do that, that's so boring, I want to get out there, I want to do this, I want to do that, and so you just, again, appreciating that that's got a good place as well. And so it's about finding that balance and appreciating where that might be coming from, and don't condemn yourself either for having a struggle in those areas, in say the routine, and that might be an area that you can grow and balance in as well. So again, just appreciating those differences there. The second one, the C, is conscientiousness. That's about someone who's really, again, organized, self-disciplined, responsible. They're really serious about doing the right thing. And this is part of what's really inspired me to do this talk, because I've met a lot of these people where they'll hear a sermon on, getting out there and witnessing, or again, reading the Bible or praying for a certain amount of time each day, and they'll beat themselves up because they set this really unrealistic standard, this ideal that is impossible to meet. So it's like, I've got to pray an hour a day, and some of you might hear that, that's nothing, that's easy. But for some people, that's like really difficult to manage and put that in place for various reasons. And they'll then carry that really high standard. If someone says you got to pray for an hour, they'll say, well, I better pray for 2 then. So these conscientious people are really, really careful about doing the right thing. And if it's coming from a performance-based mentality, it's always going to set you up for failure. So be aware of that. If that's the way that you're wired, that's a personality trait that you have, be careful of that. You can actually use that to your advantage. You know, you can actually help structure and put things in place that are healthy and functional and realistic, and you'll kick goals. Like, you'll go really, really far with that. On the other side of the spectrum is the more impulsive type of a person. So if you're high in conscientiousness, you're going to be less high on impulsivity. If you're more impulsive, you're less high on the conscientiousness. I hope that's making sense on that range there. So the impulsive person obviously is more disorganized. They just go for it. They just break the boundaries. They just jump into action. And, you know, that's fine as well, but they will tend to thrive in a more chaotic environment. All right, so they might need more of that balance, more of that structure, and having those healthy boundaries around them to help them do that. So if you're more that way, you do really well in just making decisions and just going for it, and that's great. But it's also important, of course, to appreciate, again, if someone's communicating to you from a more conscientious perspective, you'd just be like, well, just do it, just go for it, hurry up, come on, you know. But it's, again, appreciating where people are coming from and not condemning, beating yourself up, appreciating the differences so that you can use that to your advantage and play to your strengths in that. The next one, extraversion, the E there, is about being energized by people. I've heard it described as though if you're an extrovert, it's like you wake up with no golden coins, you know, and as you go about your day interacting with people, you get golden coins from the interactions you have with people. You get energized. Versus an introvert is someone who wakes up with, say, 10 golden coins, and as they interact with people and have social interactions, they give these coins away, and so they're actually becoming in a deficit of their golden coins. They're becoming less energized, and so it's important to appreciate that difference there. And the extroverted people will tend to be more about like getting out there, witnessing, talking to groups, you know, getting out street preaching, all that in the church context again. And, you know, all about getting out there kind of thing tends to be that way. Not always, but tends to be that way. Whereas the introvert's more about the one-to-one discipleship, the really answering those questions, going deeper. Not to say that extroverted people don't do that either, but again, I'm just using the extremes there. So again, appreciating the differences there. So if someone's an evangelist and they're talking about getting out there, you know, don't beat yourself up if you're an introvert. You can use your personality traits and your style to your advantage, and maybe it is about going out to speak to the one person, or that person that brings in all this these people to the meeting. Those people are going to need the one-to-one conversations to go deeper, and it's okay to appreciate where you fit in that body, in that model, where you fit in the body of Christ, in the church. It's okay to appreciate where you're coming from and your style. You don't have to be like anyone else. You don't have to compare yourself to other people. So that's important to appreciate that difference there. And the fourth one there is agreeableness. That's someone who is very much about pleasing others, always looking out for the needs of others. They'll put themselves second and put others first. And that's a great trait, especially in the Christian community, about serving and all of that. The danger with that, of course, is that they lose touch with their own needs, and they can, if they're not careful, lack boundaries and not have a healthy boundary setting. So, their family starts to suffer, their children. It might even be that they put ministry first, before their own health. And I've seen this happen many times, that they then become resentful, as if these other people, the people they're serving, are forcing them to do it. And they're making they just become resentful and bitter towards the ministry, towards church, towards other people, towards God. And that's a real danger, and that's not healthy, and that's not okay. And that person needs to be aware of that trap, and they need to put in healthy boundaries. They need to set that clearly, so they don't get caught up in that negative mindset. The opposite of that is individualism. And the individualist is more about, they can hold their own, and they can make really good leaders. They can, just stand up, make the hard decisions, and just call the shots where it needs to be called, and not worry about the feedback or the getting hit back with negative criticism. They're okay with that. And so we need those people as well in the church community, and in any community. We need that. Again, appreciating the differences. And the last one there is neuroticism. And that's really about people that on higher on that trait tend to be less emotionally stable. They can often misinterpret situations in a negative way. They're very vulnerable and very feelings driven. And so they're easily hurt. And again, as a leader, as a pastor, you might have people coming to you that you've said something and they've interpreted it in a wrong way, in a way that you did not intend at all, but they've been hurt by that. And that, not to say that they're neurotic, but they may have that less emotionally stable, and just to appreciate that, where they're coming from and not to take it personally. And if you are more that way, it is important to develop strategies and ways to become more emotionally stable. The opposite of that, obviously, is more of the level-headedness, more emotionally stable, less reactive, more impulse control. And you can develop healthy ways to do that as well. And so I just wanted to share these ideas, these concepts, and more to just get you thinking about what you're thinking about. I hope it's blessed you and encourages you to know the Lord and make Him known, and to appreciate where you're coming from and the way that God's designed you. So you can actually use the strengths and that you have in your personality style, grow and develop in that, and find that healthy balance, find that middle area, and really go for it, guys. Bless you guys. Hope this has helped, and go for it.